Welcome to the Ladies in Biz podcast, where every week we have guests that are amazing female entrepreneurs. Find out how they got started and grew their business. Discover how their story can help you grow your business. Thanks for tuning in today. Here is your host, Penny Redmond.
Hey, welcome everyone to Ladies in Biz, and we have another amazing guest today as normal. And welcome to Leigh Fowler. Hi, Leigh. How are you today?
Hey, everyone. Really excited, Penny, to be on the Ladies in Biz podcast.
Well, we're anxious to have you, and I know we've had a chance to meet each other, and we've got a lot to go over. But for our audience, let me just give them an idea of who you are and what you're up to these days. So everybody, let me just tell you a little bit about Leigh. So Leigh believes in content that converts, and it is a strategy and not an accident. By utilizing this strategy, she's helped lots of clients leverage their book launches into the #1 spot on Amazon, plus strategically attract more visibility for their business in lead generation and in media, in speaking gigs, and social proof. So can you add on to that? Can you give me, that's a short bio, so do you want to add?
Yeah, no, I love that, Penny, and it's so exciting to be here. I'm excited to talk about creating momentum in your business and visibility, and a lot of us deal with the imposter syndrome and the fear of technology and all the things that kind of stop us from getting out there and getting more eyeballs on our content and on our offers and our services. So my job after 20 years in the marketing and publishing industry is to help people who have the desire to inspire to get out there and find their voice and navigate the online content strategies and world out there in a very confident manner, and also leverage their content and opportunities using their book as a business card, or converting their workshops into content and repurposing that into multiple revenue streams. But at the end of the day, I'm a content strategist, and I really want to help people make a bigger impact, grow their community online, and get more visible.
Yeah, you know, it's tough for all of us when you first start out in a business, and there's lots of challenges that we have. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about first, because I know you've got lots of great tips for us, is one of the things I have written down here: 6 ways we sabotage our offers before we even begin. Well, I think I have about 20. But you want to focus on 6.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, we want to monetize our marketing, and we want to get that momentum from our efforts. And sometimes with social media, with the landscape changing so often, we tend to get confused about the technology or whatever gets in the way, right? So there's lots of reasons why we could sabotage ourselves. But what I found is that sometimes it's on a personal level. You know, we think about entrepreneurship, we evolve as people, and so you get to learn these things just individually and as a company. And so the #1 thing I wanted to say that we sabotage ourselves is around timing. So timing is something very interesting. For example, I timed a webinar last week on Tuesday, which was, I'm going to date this podcast a little bit, but I think it's relevant. It could be any day of the year, where it was back to school for myself, for my family, and back to school for a lot of my clients. And here I was promoting a webinar at 12 o'clock noon, 3 hours after all those moms and all those business owners had sent their kids off to school and taken that big breath, like, and you know, like, what was I thinking promoting an event 3 hours after everybody's like finally relaxing after 8 weeks of summer? You know, like, it was just the timing of things. I've done that before in the past, and sometimes we have to revisit and relearn lessons. But the other time I did that once years ago was during March break. I put out an offer in the middle of March break, and you know, everyone's out of town, they're on holidays, like their kids are home, and so it wasn't really good. You know, it's all about timing. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I've seen this happen over and over again, and sometimes it's because we feel as though we're ready to present what we've got. And I know, listen, timing is everything. I started the classes, remember I told you, in August, end of August, for live classes for Instagram. Well, who wants to do a class in August? Now, as long as your expectations aren't over exceeding on what you can actually do when the timing is wrong, then that's okay. But if your expectation was really higher, but you know, it is about your ideal clients for timing, is understanding what's going on in their lives. Really, that's what it's all about.
Big time. And if you're not a mom or a parent, you might not even realize that, you know, half the population, it feels like, is like traveling. Like that's the one, you know, before I had kids, I would never travel during March break week at the airports, like, because it was just always busy, right? So we know for a fact that people are out of town, and then to put a deadline on an offer around the timing of that was just, you know, silly. Right. So we learn.
Well, I'm just going to tell one more story because I think this is interesting, because most of your clients, can you just confirm who your client base, your ideal client base is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned earlier, like the desire to inspire. So a lot of my clients are service-based entrepreneurs. They're probably year 3 to 5. However, a lot of them come to me when they're first starting out, and I give them some homework and we meet up a few years later, which is always great. But year 3 to 5 is when they're starting to expand their visibility, and they want to build on top of what they're already doing. So I find a lot of entrepreneurs get to that space where they're almost Frankensteining their content out there, their brand, their pictures, their you know, about profiles. And so I like to come and meet my clients and sort of clean that up, and then build on top of that and help them reach more people and make a bigger impact. So service-based often, I work often, which is surprising. I was in a room once with clients, and there were intuitive healers, there was business coaches, there were speakers, authors, what else, like more on the naturopathic side, service, health and fitness trainers. So people that are there to make a difference with their clientele. And so that's what inspires me when I help my clients, so they can help more people as well.
Well, I'm going to just tell one more story about timing.
Yes.
It's one of my clients, their ideal client and fan base was 18 to 35-year-old men.
Yes.
So you think a whole different way of looking on when you're going to reach out to them than with your ideal clients.
Right. Yeah.
So your ideal clients, you wouldn't do anything on Christmas morning or day, because all of them probably have lives, are married, or have children, or have other people to deal with, right? With the 18 to 35-year-old men, they're all there ready to listen to you on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
They have no other responsibilities.
Right. Yeah. So, and you know, it's funny because we do have to think about the ideal client and what are they up to? What are they doing? What are they, you know, what is that timeline? And so after a year, you know, this is year 7 for me as a full-time entrepreneur, year 22 in this whole industry of marketing and writing, journalism, promotions and publishing. And so for me, like, yeah, you do see trends over the years, and, you know, there's certain times of the year where you just have to think, you know, like, you know, timing is everything. And so even taking and leveraging something that's happening like Christmas and incorporating that into a special offer, like a 1-day sale on Christmas or Boxing Day or end of the year, you know, even timing of workshops when you think about how people plan. And, you know, what August is also probably not a great time of the year to host a workshop. Like just, you know, so it takes, you know, some honesty with yourself and, you know, some planning, but also tracking your efforts and what other things were going on when you put them out. And, you know, you always got to turn your mistakes into successes and learning lessons, and, you know, and look back. Right. So that's always a great thing.
So what number 1 is timing? What's number 2? Well, I hope everybody has a pen and paper to write.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to fire off a lot of goodies today. I want people to walk away with some ways they can repurpose their content they already have and revisit maybe past efforts and clean them up a little bit, or try them again with a different viewpoint or attitude. And so another piece about putting out an offer is that indecision is a decision. Indecision is a decision. And so often we might be sitting on the fence about a special offer. It could be around the pricing. It could be around the actual offer itself and how much we're putting into it, how we work with people one-on-one or in a group or live in person, on video and virtual. And so when we're indecisive, our audience can be indecisive, and the offer tends to fall flat when that happens, because people can sense you know, if you're feeling it, they're feeling it.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's always tough. It's always great to be able to just run over ideas with people that you're very comfortable with and can give you great feedback. But right, you're so right on it.
Yeah, and we just have to check in with ourselves again, like as entrepreneurs, like we are our own bosses and we need to have some systems in place to check ourselves and sort of tune in, listen to that gut. So often people maybe make fun of the fact that, there's an intuition that we have when we run our businesses, but absolutely you got to check in and listen to yourself. Super important. Okay, so number 3 is actually something we're going to talk a lot more about too, is visibility and invisibility. So often, one thing I've noticed people do is that they've been away from social media for a long time, maybe in the summer, maybe they haven't been posting for a while, and they haven't been visible. And then they show up and the first thing they do is say, "Buy from me." Okay, I think we've all been there. It's an innocent enough mistake. We're all geared up and ready to go. Penny, if for the people that are just listening, you're making some great faces and you can relate, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone goes through it.
Yeah. So even, as you're thinking about putting an offer, think about seeding that offer, thinking about, nurturing your community and what's that strategy around there before you even put out those offers. And you know what, there's some people that will say, just ask for it and put it out there. But I think it's important, like you gotta show up, right? People have to kind of build that relationship with you. And if you've disappeared for a while, you gotta kind of get that back and show up.
We sure do. And, it goes back to your sales funnel. If you go back and you realize there is a process to doing all that. And the reason you have a sales funnel is because, and it goes like this, it just doesn't go, one stop. It's because you do have to be able to warm up those potential new clients. And by just saying, here's what I've got, and not caring about what their needs are, or what their pain points are, or letting them know that you really understand their pain points, it just doesn't work anymore. Maybe years ago it did, but in today's world, it doesn't work.
Right. And that's the thing. We are so disconnected in a world that is supposed to be really connected now with the internet, the technology, social media. Yes. And I know I was talking with a group of people where in the UK, they've appointed a minister of loneliness. And so they are addressing the fact that loneliness is an epidemic over in the UK. And I think there's actually an interesting film being produced about loneliness in the world around social media, and I'll have to share that information with you guys and your audience too that's coming out. But yeah, there's just all kinds of information and statistics and facts showing that even I think there was a report I read that Facebook actually makes people feel worse about themselves when they're after they've been scrolling or being online. And so that's something that as entrepreneurs we have to consider, that Facebook may make us feel worse in the sense like maybe we're competitive, maybe we don't feel like we're doing enough. We'll talk a little bit later about Imposter Syndrome. I'm sure that kind of creeps out. And so having a strategy where you're confident in what you're putting out there helps you reduce that sense of
without a doubt,
sense of self. Yeah.
And really understanding what your objective makes a world of difference. And I know, because I love Instagram so much, I often talk about, please don't even think about your followers. It does not matter. What matters is the quality of the connections that you're having when you're using the platform.
Right. So yeah, not to worry about the number of followers you have, but the engagement metrics are so important. Absolutely. I agree.
That's the visibility part. Take your time to get back into it and build that rapport and connections.
Yeah. Number four. Okay. So when you're making an offer, sometimes we sabotage ourselves by not giving enough information. And so there's so many ways that people buy, but I was reading even back in 2013 that Canadians in general are shopping online and doing research. 92% will go onto the internet before they purchase a product and do research. And so that's a pretty big statistic. 6 years ago. So we want to consider that people want to know the specifics about something that they're going to buy. So where we fall flat is often not giving people enough information or not even knowing some of those details. So thinking about your customer journey and what happens after someone purchases the product, and do they receive a welcome package? Do they receive a welcome gift? What happens? How many times a month? How many minutes? Is there a payment plan available? How can I pay for this? Like, all the specifics of the product and the purchase experience are so important, and that's where often we sabotage ourselves by not looking at those details.
Yeah, and definitely we all know the statistics as well about repeat purchases. Yes, and the cost of getting new ones versus the cost of being able to have a person that once bought from you buy from you again is a lot less.
Yeah, for sure, right? So I think it's important to help people out. We know that people research before they work with us, and to give them some specifics about, the results, the tangibles, the things that they can, get their teeth in sunk into. And so that brings us also to the ask itself. So we sabotage ourselves. First of all, sometimes we don't even ask for the business.
Oh, lots don't. Absolutely.
Right?
My biggest thing about Instagram is no call to action. So
yes, I mean, in all social media, right? The number one thing is the ask, right? So often number one thing that clients will say to me when they come to me is like, Leigh, I put out all these promotions, all these marketing pieces, but nothing happened. I didn't get any traction. I didn't get any sales. And so we pull up some of their posts that they go through, and I see that they aren't adding the call to action. They're not making it easy for people to find their product by just giving them a link, telling them how much it costs, what does it entail, how many spots are available, when is the offer open, when is the offer closed. Like, there's so many things about the ask. But when I ask my clients, did you get a clear yes? Like, how many clear yeses did you get? And how many clear no's did you get? And that's where we can pick apart the process and look at, okay, well, how are you asking for the business?
It's so funny. I actually think this is one of the easiest things to forget, because you're working on your project and on your offer so closely that you know all the specifics and all the details. I did something just recently. I created a postcard and I wasn't really super clear. I did put my email address on and stuff like that, contact me, but it could have been such a stronger message. And it's just because you think that everyone knows how to get a hold of you, but that's not the case, right?
Yes. Well, and I think too, we assume that people know what we do. And unfortunately, we evolve as entrepreneurs. So it's tricky for everyone else to compete with us when we're also competing with our own mission and vision, right?
Absolutely. I really think it boils down to is that we're just so close to it. I really advise people when it comes to call to action, it's a good idea to have someone read over your content.
Yes.
And you need people like yourself that can really look it over and say, you know what, you missed the point.
Does this make sense? Is it easy? Does it make sense? What are you selling exactly? I don't understand, so there's and this is like, it can be like a numbers game, when we say like, how many people did you ask? And, we get a certain percentage. And I think it's important, to have a go-to sales system, and content marketing is a sales tool. And so we can sabotage ourselves by doing all this marketing, but if your sales process isn't in place either, then, the marketing will fall short and will never support your sales goals if the sales process is not in place.
And the worst thing is you've done all that work and effort to make everything so perfect. And this number 5, if you miss number 5, everything else doesn't work.
Yes. So that brings us to number 6. And ultimately, we sabotage our efforts before we even begin when we don't have a system, a go-to system. And what I mean by that is that there's so many elements of onboarding clients, and we have the sales and marketing pieces, but we also have fulfillment and delivery and the ability to book people into our calendar. And our actual calendar system is a huge thing where a lot of entrepreneurs fall short, is the realism, or behind how many clients can they actually onboard in a certain amount of time and fit into their schedule, and are their goals matching up to the reality of what they can fulfill. So a common mistake, Penny, and I'm sure you've probably heard this before, is a client will have a goal of like, hey, I want to bring in and onboard 100 clients this month, let's say. Okay, so like, we're just going to use some rounded numbers here. And what I'll say is, okay, well, how many hours is each client worth to you, and how much is involved in like bringing them to A to Z, from step 1 to 10, what's involved? And usually, and sometimes I did at one point get an answer of 8 to 10 hours. And so when that specific client was like, I want 100 new clients, each of them are going to take 8 to 10 clients, and in 1 month time, that's about 800 hours if I'm not, if I'm doing my math right. So the realism of that is not right, especially with a 40-hour work week. If that's the, what you're, 160 hours a month of work hours and 800 hours of new clients, not possible. So the system that supports you, that creates the ability to receive, some people might think I'm a little woo-woo, but if you don't have the ability to receive, it's hard. You have to be open. Your calendar has to be open. You have to be ready to receive. And that's a big part of the system. And finding places to automate that. For me, one year I did a Christmas offer where I brought on 24 clients in the first week of Christmas after a Black Friday offer. 24 clients came in, and I had an automated welcome message that welcomed them on board. And then that message actually gave them a link to book their January sessions with me. So even though I onboarded 24 clients in a week, I was still able to service them because they had a first come, first serve booking calendar. They could book at their leisure. And I wasn't all of a sudden, onboarding 24 people at once. It was the system was ready to receive. And I had a really good Christmas that year.
I bet you did. Hey, one of the things that I did notice, I noticed your calendar when we were going through this process on
Yes.
trying to find a date and everything and to connect. And I loved it. And in fact, I've already sent a note out to another person who was talking to you there saying, hey, do you know any calendar programs or software that's great? So can you share the program that you use today and tell us? Like, it's really quite cool. It has a lot of features in it.
Yeah, I really geek out about stuff like this, Penny. So it's one of my favorite kind of questions is like calendar systems and coordinating things. So I actually do a 2-part calendar system. So I like to send people to a link that's easy to remember. And so sometimes I can use, I used to use lead pages in the past, where it's a landing page that maybe has a video or a couple words, a picture of me that says, hey, let's chat. And what is the purpose of the chat? What are we about to talk about? So I have a specific landing page for podcast interviews. I have a special landing page for coffee chats. I have a special landing page for a few other things like client calls or sales calls or strategy sessions, all kinds of neat landings. So it's very specific about what the call is going to be. When they say, yes, I want to chat with you, they move over to my booking system. And so in the past, I've used a variety of booking systems. Right now, I'm using Appointment Core. Appointment Core actually links to another system I use called Infusionsoft. And so I've been using Infusionsoft. Some people call it Confusionsoft. And actually they have a new name. They've been rebranding as Keep, K-E-A-P. But so the booking system is Appointment Core. Now for the longest time, the one I really liked was called Time Trade. Timetrade.com is about $97 a year, and you get unlimited landing pages. And the landing pages give you an opportunity to upload a picture, description, and then access and link to your Google Calendar. Wow. So that's another thing, is that having an online calendar, a personal online calendar for your business is so important, because all these apps, whether it's Calendly, Time Trade, Appointment Core, Time Fusion, there's so many out there, as long as they link to your personal calendar. So when people are upgrading their systems, it's important to look at something I like to call is like, well, everyone calls it integrations.
Mhm.
So systems that are integrating and working together. And it's an important feature when you're picking out your calendar booking system.
Oh, it sure is. In any business, you want to be able to not have programs that run just along by themselves. Well, one of the things that I liked about the appointment core is that it reminded me that there was a call coming the first, like 24 hours from now, and then it reminded me an hour before. And of course, you know what, I screwed up, but anyway, but
Oh, no, I'm laughing. I laughed for the audio listeners. I laughed because it allows you to customize the reminders. And so this is year 7 of booking appointments with my clients and coordinating efforts. And I do complimentary calls. So some of us do complimentary, like get to know you calls, and then, you know, different things. So what I found is that sometimes the reminder the day before is really helpful because people like to kind of plan the night before. The morning of is another one. And my assistant and team sometimes gets mad at me when I say, and can we just do one like 5 minutes before the meeting? Like, you know.
I really don't think anyone would be upset about it.
Right? I've received sometimes people are like, okay, enough reminders, Leigh, but you know, it's for the times we've had as entrepreneurs that having a no-show costs you money. And so, you know, time is money, and those reminders are custom, but the great thing about the system, it allows you to time that out, and, you know, maybe it's, you know, 2 hours before an hour. Yeah. So I'm glad you like that. Thank you. Yeah.
I love it. Actually, it was so interesting because the meeting that I had the day before, I was telling this gentleman that does websites, and he likes having consults, and you know, he gives away I think a 15-minute consult to look at their current website and then go over and evaluate it with them and everything like that. But he said one of the bigger problems is people just aren't there, like they're not there. So he scheduled his whole day around all of these calls, only to find out what a waste of time it was for him because they're not there.
Right.
So, you know, if you had a program like yours, then it would be well worth it. Do you know how much the appointment core is, the cost to it?
Appointment core is a monthly subscription, and I believe it's $35 US a month.
Yeah, which is really pretty much where all of the programs are, right?
Yeah, especially that subscription model.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Penny, you know, I hate hearing that people lose business like that, especially like with the complimentary strategy sessions, because it is an opportunity to get to know someone. And in marketing, we always say like 7 touch points, you know, there's different, and in my past experience, I found people, you know, maybe do a webinar with me, they download a freebie, they hang out in my Facebook group. There's all these nurture points along the way. And the complimentary strategy session is to kind of help somebody and see if you're a good fit, like both ways, right? Like to see, you know, so
waste your time.
Yeah. So another content strategy I put in place, so for the no-shows, is that I often send people a survey before we talk. So I can provide them custom feedback during the complimentary one-on-one session. And so often I check in and make sure that that person has filled out they've taken the time to answer the questions so that I can really help them. And they've done that 48 hours before the one-on-one call. And that way I know at least, you know, we're 2 days out. Is this still going to happen? Have they done the work? Are they serious? Are they, you know, one of my ideal client avatars is willing to do the work. You know, they show up. So if they don't show up, like, we're not working together, right? So I just give them an opportunity to do that. And that's, you know, time is money. So I think it's important. And that's it's just content strategy of like, okay, what do I need to know to be able to help them and give them the most value in those 15 minutes or 30 minutes? And they can walk away feeling good. I feel good. And I get to kind of interview them a little bit too and pre-qualify them.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a big difference. Well, I'm hoping the gentleman that I spoke to that day is listening today. If not, I'm calling him up and saying, I think you really need to listen to this podcast. That's really, listen, that is so wonderful because I don't think anything like that has really been shared in the past with our viewers or listeners. And so get this, we're going to put those down in the notes on exactly the appointment core and Infusionsoft, whatever. We'll put that all down so everyone's got exactly what the process is. So we can.
That's great. Yeah. And full disclosure, I use Leigh Pages once in a while, and I just relaunched my site. So I do affiliate links for Leigh Pages and Infusionsoft. I'm an affiliate for them, but I've been using them for over, I guess, 5 years now, since 2013. And I just, I can't say enough about it, saving time and money for people. And so, yeah, like people don't have to, they don't have to buy through my link. It's not a hard sell, but it's definitely just full disclosure that I believe in those products. And
you're saying that because of the disclosure is kind of required. But you know what? I love hearing people that are really believers in some of these programs and know that you've been successful for it. It's just wonderful to hear that you use them and found them effective.
Yeah.
And I know I do a couple of affiliates as well. I love it because it's programs that I use every day. And honestly, I couldn't live without them. And so I'm a real believer in them. So anyway, so this is good. So we'll put those links in anyway for you as well. That'll be part of your affiliate program as well. So it'll be great. And of course, anyone can connect with you to even ask you more questions about that as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so one of the things, so we've done our 6.
Yeah.
So one of the things though, I think, and the reason I did these questions in this order is because then we just barely touched on it, is imposter syndrome. And we've spoken about that on Ladies in Biz before, but I gotta tell you, I don't think people can hear it enough because there's so many people that suffer from this. So can you take it away?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I think what's crazy about imposter syndrome is that I think it's like a reoccurring syndrome. It's something that we as entrepreneurs are evolving. So we're going up to level after level and reaching new heights and achieving new things. And so each time we reach for, new level, new devil, right? So imposter syndrome came up for me recently, just in the last year, when I decided I was going to write a book. And the whole book was around ready to amplify and content strategies that have worked for myself and my clients. And here I was thinking, well, who am I to write a book? Who am I? Who's going to read it? Why would anyone buy it? And I was going through the same thing, like every single one of my clients go through. I think every entrepreneur goes through at some point. And, at the time I really had to look at the tangible proof, right? I think that's so important to know your numbers and to look back every 3 months and be like, okay, what worked, what didn't work in my business, so that you're constantly celebrating. That's something we don't do enough, Penny, is celebrating.
I actually am quite good at celebrating.
Oh, okay. We need to do a whole podcast on that because we forget, right? We get caught up in the hamster wheel of things often. And so there was one thing, I think I shared this with you. I have like this fistful of like medals here. Did I mention this?
Yeah, I think you should.
A while ago. I think this is really important. These are National Canadian Cycling Association medals, and there's 7 of them from the cycling velodrome in the 90s when I used to compete. And when I started my business, I took some time away from cycling. I gained weight. I became out of shape. And last year I decided, you know what? I raced for 8 years. I've ridden my bike all my life. I need to get that fitness back. I want to ride my bike for life. And I'm going to get back on the track. I'm going to get back on the velodrome, this 250 meter oval that is wooden and is ramped and angled and fast with bikes that have no brakes. It's kind of crazy and scary and controlled at the same time. And I dealt with imposter syndrome, even though I had the tangible proof at my side, that I was a national level, like gold, silver, and bronze medalist on the track. And I was experiencing that, being in a different environment, in a different role. Now I'm a mom. Now I'm in a different decade. I'm in my 40s now, not my teens and 20s. And I think the same thing happens when we move from a corporate position where we have a team to support us, we have a stable paycheck, we have an environment that we're comfortable in. and we can focus on what we're there to do. In my case, I was a young woman going to school and a job, but basically my job was to ride my bike. And now I think when we look at entrepreneurs who have left corporate and are wearing not just the hat they need to run their business as the expert that they are, but then all the hats we wear. We have to be the accountant. We have to be the video producer. We have to be the editor. We have to be the boss, so there's like all these roles, and imposter syndrome will creep right in there and deflect us away from, the fact that we know our stuff, Penny, and we're really good at what we do. So we need systems to support our own feelings of, imposter syndrome, because if we know it's going to come, if we know it's going to come, we need to be proactive. We need to recognize the signs when it's creeping in, and we have to treat it like a syndrome, because it is one, and you're stuck with it for life, I think, as if you're somebody like, that's constantly aiming higher.
I think it also creeps in if when you're in business for a long time and you're successful, and sometimes all businesses will have ups and downs. There is no businesses that don't, that I know of. If you know a business that only has ups, please let me know. I will start that business right away. But I think when you have those downs is when that imposter syndrome can sort of start seeping into your mental mindset.
Yeah.
Because then you start questioning whether or not you're really as good as you really are. And so it is, I think it's something, it's different degrees. There's, you can be a massive where it stops you from even moving forward in your business, or it can be just one of those couple of hours during the day where you've got to really get past it and change that to a positive mindset and say, no, I know my stuff. I know I'm good at this.
Yes. And, I reached out to a woman. She calls herself a sales ninja, and her name is Laura Wright. And she was my mentor a few years ago. And what she said, I thought was really, I think maybe her mentor taught her as well, but she kept something called an evidence journal, and she kept a digital one and a physical one. So the evidence journal was like screenshots of when her clients had said, thank you so much for helping me with this, or, just the thank you letters and testimonials that people had shared, and maybe some of her other successes and interviews and media, or sales numbers and spreadsheets, so that when she felt that moment of imposter syndrome creeping in, she could open up that evidence journal and be like, boom, 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 like, here we go, like reality over here, crazy mind over here, so I thought that was one of the craziest things. Mindset, you mentioned, is huge. I've started over the years listening to a lot of podcasts on mindset, and even in cycling and sport, the mind can overcome so much, and the pain and just visualization. One of my favorite books is called The Miracle Morning. Have you heard of that one?
No, I haven't heard that one. The Miracle Morning. So I'll put it in.
Morning. Yes, Miracle Morning. It's Hal Elrod, I think his last name is, but he talks about 6 habits a day that really support living a life with intention. And those 6 habits include visualization, affirmations, meditation, journaling, exercise, and one other that you'll have to pick up the book for.
You'll have to pick it up.
Right? It's a quick read. It's a really quick read, but the whole idea is like we have this gift of time, and when we can be proactive and set intentions with our day, wow, we have 16 hours every single day we wake up with. 16 hours if you have an 8-hour sleep pattern, right? So you wake up and you decide how you're going to use those 16 hours every day. Wow, right? That's so powerful.
Well, I was just looking on my phone very quickly while you were talking about that mindset, because today I was watching the news, and we have a Canadian that has won the U.S. Open, tennis open. We'll give you an idea when we're taping this as well. So we're freaking excited about it. But yesterday and today, when she was doing interviews, so Bianca, And I'm always worried I'm going to say her name wrong, but it's Andresicu. Does that sound right? Andreescu.
Oh, yes. I don't know for sure, but I think, yeah.
She's a Bianca in mine. She's a one name person because everybody knows Bianca now.
Yes.
But all she talked about was how she visualized the win for over a year.
Yes.
And that is how powerful, and you talked about this as well, about visibility as well. But this visibility is like she's seeing it. She's actually knowing she's going to win.
Yes, yes. And so that's huge. I think that a lot of entrepreneurs you'll hear are journaling now, right? And making those affirmations, visualizing. And, I used to do that at the beginning of every race. I would go through the entire race in 1 to 3 minutes in my mind, like the start of the race, like just in my head before we started, calmly visualizing strength and inner courage, and seeing myself at the end, right? And it's a practice. It's something we get better at the more we do it. And I think in business, if you can apply that visualization of having a clean desk and money in the bank and visualize yourself purchasing new things for your business and working with amazing clients and seeing their success. I mean, you can wake up in the morning and visualize this in 3 to 5 minutes and start your day like feeling that. It's so powerful.
It really is. And it's so funny because people in sports like yourself, being able to see that already and see your win is so powerful. But yet as business owners, we really haven't embraced that. Now we talk about positive mindset, but I think it goes beyond that. I think it's actually visually seeing everything to get that positive mindset.
Yeah, the believing in yourself, the piece of, how do you support yourself getting there, seeing it, manifesting is a word we may hear often. And, I had a non-entrepreneur friend say to me, like, Leigh, what's manifesting? And I said, well, it's where you visualize exactly what you want to have happen, and you make choices that will help you get there faster because you're thinking it, you're believing it, you're seeing it, you are creating it. You're creating the people you need to know and the resources you need, and you're building something, you're manifesting, right? And I think it's something we all probably have a different, I looked it up and it was terrible. The Urban Dictionary had so many weird and bizarre definitions of manifesting, but yeah, I think it's key to know, have a vision, right?
Well, we do as a brand, we have a vision and we write it down, but I think it's too simplified, or in our version of businesses and having a vision and mission statement are too simplified.
Yes.
I think the vision should be for you personally is that for number one, for me, I know my vision is always working with people I really love.
Yes.
And I put that out there. I got to tell you, all I get is really wonderful people coming towards me. So that's really important.
Oh, and you project that, Penny, for those of you who can't see Penny right now, she's just glowing, and your smile is contagious. And I think you attract like-minded people. And I think that's so, important in business and in life. And my sister was telling me in relationships too, for every negative comment that's made in a relationship, it takes 5 positive comments to undo the damage that one negative comment will do. And so if you can imagine that as entrepreneurs, the self-talk that goes on in our head, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified, I don't know how to do this, like that negative self-talk, you need to add 5 more positive things to that pool of negativity to really get past your own thinking. And it's a practice not to think that way.
So good rule then. So if you think of one negative thought, then start thinking about 5 other positive thoughts. Just stop and do it. That's wonderful. I'm really glad you shared that because I didn't know that. And it makes so much sense though. So I'm going to try it. I'll try it this week. I got a big hard week coming on. So
yeah, well, Penny, you know what? Our environment is so important as entrepreneurs, and we have to be protective of that environment. And we have to know how much the negative, attitudes around us can affect us. And I think so many of us have a dream that not many of us understand. I think as entrepreneurs, we live outside of the box, that we dream bigger than most, we think bigger than most. And so it's really challenging sometimes, even for those that I work with that say, I want to write a book, neighbors will be like, what? You can write a book? Like, is this possible? Right? Like, it's something, it's like, it's bigger than most. And so if you can surround yourself with the people in your community, that believe in that kind of thing, that believe in the impossible, some who says like impossible says like, I am possible, right? Like, we have to think that way. And so, yeah, if you have your systems around you that lift you up in the morning and strengthen you, that are your non-negotiables, this will help you navigate the road of entrepreneurship so much better, and the task of being visible.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to run short on time, so because I've got 2 more topics to cover.
I know. Okay, so how much time do we have?
So I want to talk about, the next one I wrote down here was content that converts. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of different areas, and we've hit on some of them. So I like to use something called the 8, or sometimes it gets up to 10 C's of content marketing success. And one of the things we talked about when we talked about timing and being specific and our calendar is having the capacity to receive. So being able to show up and invite people into your world has to be possible. But if you're overtired, if you're stressed already, sometimes we feel really busy in our business. We feel overwhelmed. And, this happens a lot. I hear it's another one of those syndromes. And so if we don't have the capacity for more, how can we possibly have content that converts if we're not even, if we're resisting more to some people, even though could be successful, means more busy, more tired, more work. And so how we look at success has to be, what is our capacity, and less is more, ideally, right?
Yes.
Capacity is a big one of content that converts. We talk a little bit about credibility. So content that really highlights your credibility. A lot of service-based entrepreneurs find it hard to toot their own horn. And so building content like social proof we talked about, so testimonials, getting media out there, writing articles. These are ways that you can highlight your credibility and showcase content that will help you ultimately help people along in the buying decision.
Yeah, especially being a guest for blogs would be a great opportunity there.
Yeah. Yeah. And, at the end, we're going to share a bunch of resources, but I have this one that's called 67 Ways to Amplify. And it's like 67 ways that you can build that social proof, that credibility, that impact, that, community around you. And one of the 8 C's of content that converts is community. Community creates social proof. If you can have a bunch of people self-identify together on a certain topic or a person and come together around that person, that builds credibility for your brand. And I have seen it. I have a Facebook group of almost 500 women entrepreneurs. And what I found is when I focus on just that community, 85% of my business came out of that community. And so it's about showing up and supporting and giving value. And there's other ways, that community can work for you, or that you can make community work for you. But that's another piece of content that converts, is the community that you support, and that clarity. Clarity is another one. Yes.
C's.
Yes, a lot of C's. The other ones, collaboration, commitment, and with content, we geek out about consistency, Penny.
Yeah, big one.
Yeah. Yeah. And community too is also, I have a subcategory there, visibility, right?
Yes,
so being
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've got a few of those C's down here.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Okay, so visibility, the triple V factor is what it is.
Triple V factor. That's right. So visibility is a strategy in itself. And I've been recently thinking about writing this article. It'll probably be out by the time the podcast comes out. Is it visibility ego or strategy? Right? So a lot. You're shaking your head, and you're great, because a lot of us can't get past our own egos to be more visible. And a classic case and example, I used to be a national team athlete in the Canadian cycling team. And I gained weight when I became an entrepreneur, and I didn't want to be visible. I didn't want my old boyfriends from my high school days to see me on live video the way I had changed and grown. I was no longer a national team cyclist. So my ego got in the way. And when I finally did do that first Facebook Live, I remember one of my old friends from, the dating world of my early years showed up on that live video. And it was such a relief. It was such a, excuse me, I was so relieved because it wasn't that bad after all, it wasn't terrible or horrible. And so that one thing that had been stopping me from showing up and really held me back. And so I think that the triple V factor behind visibility is first having a vision with your content of, sharing that vision and getting out there. But what that vision does is helps give value. So showing up. So the key thing about visibility is like, you can show up everywhere. It's like, it's not working, or I'm trying all this stuff. So the right strategic visibility will first share with people your vision clearly. So when you are getting visible, they get to know your values and your how you want to make an impact, how you serve people. But when you show up and give value, that can also create momentum and velocity in your visibility efforts. So we talk about having a vision and getting that clarity across, giving value in that visibility. So tips, advice, vulnerability, just how-tos, insights, trends, being of service. So all these ways of giving value can build velocity in your, so velocity is the thing. So the more you show up and be visible, the easier it is, the more inspired you can get. So the triple V factor I apply to all my strategies is vision, value, and velocity. And a really key, I mentioned it before, if you promote and want to market an event and you tell no one's going to come. If you have an amazing offer and you put all this time and energy into it, but you don't ask for the business, no one's going to buy it. So with visibility is almost the key to, I think, success in marketing is showing up and applying that triple V checklist of like consistency and velocity comes out of that. The more often you do it, the more momentum you're going to get. But the vision and value that you give and serve is important. So
it's really tough though, to be, to put yourself out there. And I think you're just right. You said the more you do it, the easier it gets. And the first time is really tough. Okay. It's hard. But the more you do it, and I know have a lot of more visibility. I have visibility, but I know for sure I can speak about myself, but it's not easy. It was never easy for me.
No.
Most people think it was, but it's not.
It's still hard for me, Penny. And I did take a health sabbatical away when my mom passed away. I took an self-imposed health sabbatical to deal with my grief and get away. And coming back was a lot of we sabotage our efforts. I was making some of the old mistakes. I had imposter syndrome. Oh, I've been away for too long. Even though it was only like 6 months. And then the visibility piece was like, oh, I look awful, or I'm emotional, or I don't want to show up. And yet, the second I show up is the second people, you stay top of mind, you make a difference. And the one thing I can tell people to think that gets me past everything is, who is that one person I'm going to help today with this message, and speak only to them, and yeah, that's what's got me through most of it. And especially even just showing up live after all those years and just being like, you know what, like, this is who I am.
Well, I think I'm like you. When I wake up in the morning, I think about, especially when we're doing these podcasts, is how many women can we help with the information that we're sharing?
Oh my goodness, yes.
And I know that how many hundreds of people listen to this. So I'm thinking that out of those hundreds, I'm sure we're making a big difference in someone's life today. And so, what is it taking an hour of our time to be able to share with people our learnings and as entrepreneurs so that they can learn from us? it's well worth it every minute of the day for doing this.
I agree. You know, it's taking 7 years now of just like that entrepreneurial piece for me. Like this is the beginning of sort of midway through year 7, and just realizing, you know, the things that we do to sabotage ourselves, that hold ourselves back. And it's a very isolating, it can be very isolating. And I said that in probably the first 6 years, I lost a lot of friends. I, you know, buried myself in work for a few years, had a couple miscarriages. Like we go through like this like whole evolution of ourselves. And I think at the end of the day, I was like, I want more family time. I want more relationships. I want more joy and happiness and health in my life and business. And so when I did come back from that health sabbatical, it was about, you know, how can I support my health and life with my business? Not, you know, I don't know what the opposite of that is right now, but it's quite vulnerable to be like, you know, I want a business that supports me living and me being healthy, not alone and isolated and tired and overweight. You know, like now it's about getting up early and going for a run and or a hike, or, you know, getting on my bike again, or spending some cuddle time with my son, or going out to the movies with my girlfriends. Like that's important to me now, because it gives you that energy. And you know, if anyone hears anything today, I think that's important, is like that whole, you know, September, we're dating this episode again, but it'll come around every year, is September is self-care awareness month. So, you know, to be aware of how you're taking care of yourself allows you to show up for your clients and your community in bigger and better ways. And, you know, taking that 1 hour massage during your workday can actually, you know, re-energize you and give you that momentum you need. So
Oh yeah, you definitely have to remember yourself, and to take care of yourself is number one, particularly when you're an entrepreneur. It really makes a big difference on your success level.
yeah.
So one of the things, and maybe you've already said it, but one of the questions that I ask at the end all the time is there a message that you want to make sure that you leave our audience with today?
Yeah, so I think the less is more, the less is more message. I'm sure I wrote something else before the show started that I wanted to share, but I think that at the end of the day, health is wealth is another one. So, you know, you need to be happy at the end of the day. And if your business is not making you happy, you have to keep looking at it and revisiting and being real with yourself about what is it that is going to make you happy. And I think it's important to take a step back, make those tough decisions. Sometimes, you know, taking that self-imposed health sabbatical was about saving my life, you know, and finally saying, okay, like, shit's gonna stop here. I hope that Apple, you gotta, but you know, the buck stops here, right? Like you're in charge of your own self. And so if you're not healthy, if you're not happy, then, you know, why are you doing this, right?
Absolutely. Good message.
Mm-hmm.
We run out of time a bit here today, but I want to mention to everyone again about your book, Ready to Amplify.
Yes.
And it's, yeah, do you have the book? Yeah, because mine is digital, so I don't know.
Yeah. So Ready to Amplify, Try Visible Impact. It's a 7-day pocket guide to amplifying your vision, impact, and community, your tribe, with feel-good content strategies.
And it's on Amazon, so you can go there. I like e-readers, so it's always good for me. So either you can get a hardback or an e-reader, so whatever you want. So anyway,
I love that.
Amazon, it's there. And also to be able to link up with you, your leigfowler.com is your website address. And I know that there's ways on your website that they can connect with you. And is there a specific social media that you like people connecting you with?
Sure. Yeah. So on the website, there's definitely a few resources I don't want people to miss out on is the visibility quiz. So what's your visibility rating and the 67 ways to amplify. And when you go through those sign up processes on the thank you page, you get invited to my Facebook group, which is called the Confident Content Creator Club. And it's the one I was sharing about earlier, where we share content ideas, trends, inspiration, questions, brainstorms, and just really support everybody in their entrepreneurial journey, celebrating the ups and downs, because it's a bit of both, right? Life meets business. And so I'd love to invite people to join me there in the Facebook group. And yeah, just like to, reach out with a PM. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all those fun things as Leigh Fowler. However, leigfowler.com/start is probably the best place to go.
Okay, great. So we'll put that in our notes too below, so everyone will get those, so you can connect with Leigh. So Leigh, thank you so much for coming on. I knew we would have a lot to chat about, and we went through a lot of information today. So I really thank you for taking your time to come and talk to the ladies in biz.
Yay! Thank you so much. And just a pleasure to help just even that one extra person. So I love that we talked about mindset today and content that converts, imposter syndrome. These are real things. So thank you for letting me share.
Okay, thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Ladies in Biz. Send us your comments on ladiesinbiz.com. We would like to hear from you.